Hello,
Hello, Hope. Nice to meet you.
I'm Hope and I'm an Agents of Change youth rep. And I'm with Micky, who's going to tell us about her justice journey. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Hope. Yes, I'm Micky Youngson. I'm the Assistant Secretary of the Methodist Conference and the Connectional Ecumenical Officer for the Methodist Church. And I've been a minister for, almost 30 years now.
Can you tell us a bit about your artifact and show?
I will. I'm going to just say one or two bits first before I show it. So I'm a twin, which means that from a very early age, I had a very strong instinct for when something's unfair, because if my sister or I were treated differently from one another, the first thing that went up was, it's not fair. It's got really well-honed sense for injustice. But in terms of learning about injustice in the world and the way Christians can have an impact on it, for me, it was through my involvement with Methodist Association of Youth Clubs when I was a young Methodist at my local youth club, and the opportunities that gave me for travel and for meeting people. And I particularly remember meeting a group of young people from South Africa, and they'd come across in International Youth Year to spend some time with British Methodists. And if they'd been in South Africa, they wouldn't have been allowed to be in the same room together because of the apartheid laws. And that's the first time I really understood what systemic injustice can do to individuals and to communities. And so I started going on anti-apartheid rallies and things like that. And I'm going to show you a piece of glass art I made a few years ago. Hope you can see it. There it is. This is symbolises the Tolpuddle Martyrs tree. And I'm going to put it down before I say much more about it. But the Tolpuddle Martyrs tree is where a group of Methodist lay preachers met and decided that they were being treated unjustly by the land owners that they worked for, and they formed a meeting together. And it's often talked about as the first trade union, although those words weren't used at the time. And they weren't killed for doing that. They were martyrs because they were sent over to Australia, they were transported, and they were meant to be in Australia for many decades. But there's a huge public outcry, lots of people demonstrating, writing letters to their members of parliament, and eventually they were pardoned and able to come back. And so the tree, the Tolpuddle Martyrs tree, I'm going to hold it up again, remembers that. But the other thing on this is that the leaves of the tree are made up of banners, and you can see anti-apartheid rally banners, Stop the War Coalition banners, Extinction Rebellion, Europe Brexit, pro-Brexit banners, no poll tax, Christian CND, so Christians for Nuclear Disarmament, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, all kinds of protests, many of which Methodists have been involved with over the years. It's in our DNA as Christians, it's part of who we are, to protest and to stand up against injustice. And so that's why I made that for the Joint Public Issues team a few years ago for one of their conferences. And it reminds me that the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. That's what it says in the Bible. And these leaves are those protest banners, which mean that our voices are heard, speaking out for other people particularly, and against injustice.
Oh, that's wonderful. That looked absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
How would you say that this artifact symbolises your faith and your justice journey?
What's lovely for me is that I really enjoy working with glass, and I was able to draw on my glass art and also my commitment and experience of speaking out against injustice. And I've never done enough, no one ever has, but things like Drop the Debt and Save the NHS, and also in the Deeds Not Words, which was a slogan of the suffragettes. And one of the suffragettes was a Methodist, and she was called Ellen Wilkinson, and she became a Labour MP, and she led the Jarrow March for Jobs. And on that piece of glass is a reference to the March for Jobs, which she led all the way from Jarrow in Newcastle to Parliament. And she's one of my heroines. She's one of the people I think of when I think about people motivated by their Methodist journey towards a journey for justice. And so that matters quite a lot to me.
Thank you. That sounds so interesting, especially that suffragette. She sounds very, I hadn't heard of her, but she sounds very, very incredible.
Well, I'd encourage anyone to look her up. She became the Minister for Education just after the First World War, and she managed to increase the school leaving age and to make sure girls were entitled to the same education as boys. So she really kicked some backsides in terms of pushing against injustice, and she made sure that children had the nutrition they needed to learn well. So we could do with a few Ellen Wilkinsons around today.
Thank you so much for your time and for sharing about your justice journey. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hope.